Well, welcome everyone. I'm Karen, and along with my co-host Salma, we want to say how very happy we are that you could join us on this Ultimate Health interview. Today, we're featuring husband and wife team of Damian and Heather Dube. Did I say that right? Dube?
Yes, you did.
Good. Who are diagnostic and functional nutritionists and are also the co-founders of E3 Energy Evolved, a thyroid, adrenal, and metabolic restoration system helping women and men create their lifetime best natural wellness and metabolism. They discovered their system during their battle to successfully beat Heather's advanced Hashimoto's thyroiditis, chronic fatigue syndrome, and autoimmune disease, drug-free through nutrition and lifestyle, and transform her body to complete naturally as a U.S. national level figure athlete in 2 years. Wow. With 50 years combined education and experience in nutrition, wellness, psychology, athletics, and pharmacy, they are nutritionists, athletes, expert contributors for Experience Life and On Fitness magazines, and nutrition science peer reviewers. Welcome to the Ultimate Health Summit, Heather and Damian Dube.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
We're glad to be here with you guys today.
Well, we're very, very, very glad here. But 50 years, I mean, when did you guys start? When you were 10 or something like
I was going to say.
Oh my gosh, you guys look good.
17.
We're
around the age of
17.
17.
You guys are looking really, really, really good.
Yeah, I'm 43 and he's 44. We'll be 45 and 44 soon.
Well, you guys don't look that. You'd have sometimes at the fair they say guess your age, or some people we would never do that. You guys look like you're probably your early 30s. So I mean,
Thank you.
We work hard at it.
Yes, yeah, you do. Okay, so both of you are the co-creators of E3 Energy Evolved, a system to, kind of naturally rebalance, your health and live the fat loss lifestyle with ease and joy. The system was discovered during, the 3-year journey to heal Heather's Hashimoto disease, the chronic fatigue syndrome, and autoimmune. So tell us about that debilitating part of your life, Heather, and how you were finally able to survive and flourish with your husband, Damian, beside you, and all without the use of drugs or synthetic hormones. Take us back to your journey to where you are right now.
So we had recently gotten married. This was in our early 30s. And prior to that, Damian and I had a fairly extensive scope of work and practice in nutrition in the area of athletics. So how you change the body in an advanced manner for natural bodybuilding from point A to point B, employing really advanced and potent nutrition. It was kind of unusual for me when I fell into this place with Hashimoto's, because for us, we kind of prided ourselves on being able to control and advance and change the human body. And all of a sudden we got to this period around the time of our wedding where the universe kind of just sent us all these stressful events, one after the other, like a wave. It was like, I came off some competition. I started planning our wedding from California to New York. I was working a very intense marketing job at an agency, which is very fire drill type of pace. We had an IRS audit out of nowhere. His dad got stage 4 cancer diagnosis. So we found right out after returning from our honeymoon that we were losing his father, and we lost him within just a couple of months. And then my company started going through a buyout, and it was kind of like boom, 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 And this was in a really condensed period.
We bought a house and
6
moved.
months. Yeah, we bought a house and moved, to this new location for this job I had in marketing, and all of a sudden the company's going through a buyout, and it was like people were getting laid off. So just very, very, very mentally and emotionally stressful for this condensed period. And all of a sudden my body started shifting, it was just like I didn't feel motivated to train anymore, which was unlike me because most of my life I've been involved in sports and exercise and athletics. I didn't feel intimate with my husband. I wasn't clear in my focus. I was getting like brain fog. I didn't feel as productive at work. It just felt off, and nothing was right. And then I started going to doctors. They really couldn't give me any answers. It started progressing. So the next thing I know, I'm getting rashes. My hair is falling out. So what was going on internally started to express itself externally now. Yes. As I kept going for more, pressing for answers from, allopathic doctors and really not getting anywhere. So 2 years, 10 allopathic doctors later, nothing. And I'm like literally at the bottom of the barrel. I literally am at a place where now I've got full-blown eczema on my face. I'm waking up every day. My face is swollen. My eyes are swollen shut. I've got eczema on my neck. My neck is burning in the middle of the night. I can't sleep. I'm so tired. I'm like barely getting to work and coming out of the office. And I'm like a complete mess. And I can share with you kind of like where I was looking like a very different person every day. And in the beginning, my husband was kind of like, oh, just go get a workout. Like when I just said, I don't have the energy, or when it got that bad and it really started to express itself extensively, he was like, we really need to figure out what's going on here. And I made a really pivotal decision at that point in my life. And I took a box into my office and quit my job. And I didn't fight them for disability. I didn't try to do anything because I had to acknowledge, even though I didn't know what I had at the time, that every form of stress was making me worse.
Yeah.
So anytime I was going into that office and I was being exposed to what I felt was unethical behavior, people were getting laid off, good people, left and right, I would just blow up and I would have these like flare-ups. So what I knew as an athlete by listening to my body and tuning in was that every form of stress was exacerbating my symptoms, and I had to remove this body from stress as much as possible in order to save my life at that point. And so I told him, we looked at each other and we made a courageous decision together as husband and wife to go down to one salary so I could figure out what was going on with me. And really at that point, it felt like it was getting close to where my body was shutting down. What we found as we got closer to answers was it was a really advanced state of chronic fatigue syndrome by that point, because I'd been misdiagnosed so long by the medical system. Even when they read my labs, of course, they said, your thyroid's in normal range, there's nothing wrong, go home, take some allergy shots. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't look like anybody in your office, so I don't know why you're coming up with allergies, because like that's not allergies like the picture I shared with you. So just the disconnect between the way they see the body and think about the body was so shocking to us.
Just not only disconnect, but disrespect.
Because there was a lot of that.
You're saying you're not feeling well. You have what's going on here.
I'm feeling and honor it. And
I
somebody had actually told her that it was in her head
a couple times for sure, where I got pretty aggressive with some of these people because it was very dismissive. And it makes me feel very sad for a lot of women and men going through this, because the attitude was very dismissive in most cases. Not all, but most. Some of it was just, I don't know, like just like that. I don't know what to tell you. Like, and I can make a joke about that, but now, but 10 years ago, that was frightening. I'm like, I'm dying. I feel like I'm dying, and you don't have anything for me. Like, literally, I have rashes all over my body. My hair's coming out in clumps in the shower when I touch it. And like, I am like burning. I can't sleep at night. Like, and I was scraping along, even the chronic fatigue. It's the most bizarre feeling when you feel like you're just dragging your legs to walk, because you don't have any energy. Yeah. And really, ultimately, it was the medical system's errors that let me get that bad, and it's avoidable, and that's what's so scary. So going back to what we decided, made that decision so I would leave my job so I could focus and make my health my full-time job until we got it resolved. And then started to, like most people, really self-advocate. So now I'm researching a lot. I'm on the internet. There was no social media then, but I'm on the internet searching Google, like every chance I can get, like what rash is, like I don't know what I have. And started to go more into like like exploring natural practitioners. But what was also now shocking to us there was it was still felt like, okay, now that we're using natural things, but it's still guesswork. There was no leadership. It was like, well, let's try some Chinese herbs. And if that doesn't work, let's try some acupuncture. Let's try this. And it just felt very experimental. So this was also shocking to us because coming from athletics where you have these really dialed in programs that work on all sorts of levels in the human body to make the body change quickly, we were like, this just doesn't, I'm not feeling the leadership here. Like I'm not feeling the love. Like I don't feel like you really know what you're doing. And so I would do what most people do and go home and still keep researching and advocating, started to actually leave the area and travel to try to find people that were doing more creative work in natural therapies out of state. But see, most people cannot do these things. They cannot up and quit their job and go down to one salary and then fly out of state and kind of, you know, especially when you're exhausted and blow through thousands of dollars in like 7 days, you know, and then that's just the beginning of your journey. And that's what it was for us. So I started to finally turn the corner a little bit as we pulled in more and more therapies, went back home to California and continued working on my health for the next year and a half, and eventually actually went back to school to study functional nutrition and become a functional nutritionist in the Northern California area to resolve my health completely. And ultimately what it was really advanced Hashimoto's disease, which is thyroiditis, and then autoimmune disease and chronic fatigue syndrome. And I had a number of areas of issues with systemic candida as well as toxicity by that point because it had progressed, you know, so long. And so it was about a year and a half of committed work. Fortunately, even though I got better, some of the direction we got in the natural practitioner community at that time for my nutraceuticals and my nutrition was very general. And so this became the birth of E3 Energy Evolved, because while it was what eventually helped me heal, we found that that path was $40,000 of expenses out of pocket in a year and a half. And while we were down to one salary, and that grew when we exhausted our savings from our wedding and all sorts, eventually we went through a medical bankruptcy because of the cost, because while I was out of work healing, that $40,000 went to $80,000 through interest. And by the time we came to the point where we were able to tackle it, it was too far. We didn't have the means to do it. And so we became really passionate about creating a model that would allow people to take a much more targeted and strategic nutrition or nutrient approach to correcting illness by using very comprehensive labs in a strategic manner that would really ask their body using science and get in there systemically in terms of their, you know, autoimmune system, their endocrine system, their digestive system, to get super clear on what are the whole foods nutrients that this body sees as permissible right now, and what are the nutrients that it wants a vacation from.
So Damian, you know, it must have been difficult for you to sort of, you know, like almost like stand by and watch this happening here. You must have been like, you know, what can I do here? You know,
and you know, as a man, I mean, you know, we're the hunters and gatherers, right? We're the people that want to just fix things, right? So if our wives come to us with a problem, we're not thinking about anything other than, okay, well, how can I fix this, or how can I help this, right?
Yeah.
And so it is a little, it's difficult, right? Because it's something that you don't, at the time,
it's not like a toaster or a car.
Right. It's a lot more complex, you know? And I think that's just a lot of the struggles that relationships go through in this type of situation, where the woman's expressing what her needs are, and all we hear is, you know, what we need, you know, what's going on, let me think of how to fix it. And if we can't fix it, then it just must not be happening, or whatever, you know. And there's a lot of support that's lacking, you know, in those situations. So, you know, just as her husband, my whole role is whatever we need to do, I need to support you. So if you need to leave your work, you know, whatever you need to do to get better, we'll figure it out, you know. And can we afford it? No, but we'll figure it out later, you know. And then, you know, figuring out later was a bankruptcy, right? But it's something that we needed to do at the time.
If you're not alive, you're not really doing anyone any good.
Nothing else
Right? In the
matters,
way we look at
until
it.
death do us
Yeah.
part, right?
I think it's very tough. We really lost perspective in the States and in some areas of the world. It's funny, you can go to third world countries and the cultures are full of joy, like just boundless joy, and yet they have the least like material things and the least
American
stress and
dream,
the simplest
right?
lives.
Where you can have everything and still be
so
depressed.
grateful and so happy, and yet we've kind of lost that perspective, right? So for us, it would never be about, oh, we need to make our house payments, but I'm dying. You know what I mean? It was always about, we have to come to a place as a people that we prioritize our spiritual house before our physical house. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, in our world have lost that perspective. We don't look at our human life and our human body as one of the, if not the greatest gift that we're given. And, when it comes to life or death choices, and gosh, we don't want to wait. I mean, that's part of our message is, and we weren't exactly waiting. We were fighting for the answers, and we still went down the rabbit hole. But the point being is, get it early on. I mean, if it's early on, that's the time to get above it. Not when you're down at like the last bit, like hanging off the cliff by one finger, because that's the bankruptcy conversation. That's the, now it's going to take some serious time, energy, money, and just focus in order to get this resolved. And you can still do it, but take the wisdom that it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Bad that has to play such a big role. To live.
Well, yeah, but people have no problem spending $1,500 on a new TV or $2,000 on their kids' Christmas presents, right? Rather than getting one item, right? Or all these other things that honestly, our society says are necessary but aren't. $5 a day on a Starbucks coffee. It's all about reallocation and reprioritizing. And simple as that.
I do think it was a gift for us that during the process, every time we were called to go bigger, invest again, do more, we were never in a place of, anger or like, I don't want to put this investment into my life, because we'd already done some extensive work in understanding the kind of investments it takes to be a high-level competitive athlete. So we were already at a more than average higher commitment in terms of what we were doing in a budget for nutraceuticals, nutrition, just day-to-day stuff that we did for our wellness and health. And so this was like calling us to go higher, because once you go to clinical grade nutraceuticals and you need those kinds of things to heal, and now you got to get your food to a much more pure level, these are all, and you're doing natural therapies, these are all even higher level of investments. So it was stretching us without a doubt. But at the same time, it also told us what was necessary. It was the gift. It was the doorway into not only healing that disease, but to understand how do we now live completely preventatively, so that we're not only just like that disease is over, we are thriving in the sense that we are anti-aging, we are living without disease, we're living free from going to doctor's offices. I mean, we could say things that a lot of people don't do. I mean, I haven't had a medical drug in my body for a decade. I don't go to any of the regular needed the doctor's appointments anymore. I just don't. I don't believe in that system at all, and I don't need it. My body is free of that. Now, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow and I'm going to need to go to the hospital.
And should get out as quickly as possible.
The point is, I think, it took us a decade to come above that, a decade, because of the medical misdiagnosis. So it was 2 years of committed work of healing. Then I went back to athletics and showed what was possible after. And then we had all these things to repair, and we started our business. But I can tell you that it's the most freeing feeling when you move like we did the last time. And I took 5 bags of all sorts of over-the-counter medications and dumped them in the trash, and knowing that they are never going to enter this body again, because I don't have a need for them. I don't have a need for allergy medications, for aspirin, for all these things that we live with, and we believe and buy into this mindset, because we're told in our world that this is normal. It's normal to have allergies. It's normal to have athlete's foot. It's normal to have cold sores. These are all these things I used to actually have prior to my thyroid and autoimmune disease. But when you heal your body and you get it in complete homeostasis, everything heals. And that's the beauty of it. All those other things that we didn't go in there, you know, and anticipate, that we got freed up from, that we used to think were normal. Like he used to have lactose intolerance, or we don't have to live, you know, disrupted by those things anymore. And that's the beauty of it, is that when one thing heals, we heal all things. If we're truly healed, we come to what is homeostasis, and that is complete balance functionally and metabolically in the human body. And it is possible, and it is actually the way our bodies were designed to live.
Yeah.
It is absolutely what we were all given the potential for, and the way it was designed to live. It's this world and the way that we're taught to live here that we get caught up in all these illusions, and disease really is the doorway out of there. We have to look at it and focus it on it as the opportunity. If we catch it early enough, you don't want to go to this point, because it takes a very advanced person in practice to get yourself from here to here and get yourself out of there the way we did. So you don't want to get to that point. But the point is simply that it's an opportunity, and we have to see that opportunity versus trying to tune. Everyone's trying to tune their disease out. They're looking at it as frustrating and the symptoms, and they just want to take the medication and not deal with it, instead of using it as an opportunity to listen to and understand and learn about the human body at a higher level, and start to love it and support it and nourish it at a higher level, so that it can function free from these things.
That's the theme, and I just wrote about that in our Monday broadcast, is that every interview we've had, and it's been, I think, over 18 already in the last week, but the theme is self-love, you know, and listening to your body, and it's just an overriding theme that everybody's speaking of, you know, and it's hard to do because we're taught that it's selfish, and, you know, you gotta, you know.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things in the areas that we've been adding to our online clinic recently is studying an area and practice in bioenergetics. So now we're getting in the areas of energy related to quantum physics. And if you look at different emotions, they actually resonate at energy levels in the body, and the body feels them and experiences them. So one of the things that I cannot underestimate enough is that if you look at a journey with an illness challenge that extreme, the ability to stay in the energy of faith is super critical, because faith resonates at such a high vibration energetically. It allows that body to feel love, and actually it is measured that it can create more healing for you from that brain to the gut connection. And so it's just super important. I know it's very hard, believe me, having lived it. It's very hard in those moments not to go into hopelessness, not to go into anger, not to go into why it's happening to me, not to go into all that frustration and fear. But as you feel that surfacing, you have to pull yourself back and speak loving thoughts from your brain to your body. And because that is what faith is. Whatever your religion is or your spirituality is, true faith is believing when it makes no sense to believe at all. When everything around you doesn't reflect what you're expecting, and it makes absolutely no sense to believe at all. And if I can tell your listeners one thing is today, that believing that this was possible when I was here, when everyone was telling me no, is the epitome of what massive faith is, that I'm going to stay in love for this body, and I'm going to trust that this body loves me, and it is doing this to me for my highest good. I just don't know why yet. It's not clear to me, but it is ultimately for my highest good. And this is super important. I mean, that we stay there, because it's very easy to fall into like support groups where you're around all these people and everyone's like, it's like this negative energy. And I know that they serve a purpose for some people, but when you're around thousands of people that all have the same problem as you, think about what that's resonating energetically. It's not really moving you in the direction of healing. No. You really need to get around leaders that have the wisdom and the examples and the case studies that showcase this healing, and listen to and learn them and stay around the energy that they're resonating at, because that's what you want to lift your body up to in order to get into that co-creative process with your gut and your body.
Great. So tell us about your system, your E3 Energy Evolved method. Like, where does it start? Where did it start for you on the road to healing? Just getting rid of all the, the toxins.
Because it's energy in, right? Energy out, and also your environment. Those are the three. Are we?
Yeah. So some of it actually began when I was finally on the path to getting well, and I knew I could feel that I was coming out of the rabbit hole, at least on the upward trajectory. In the beginning, when I mentioned to you, I went back to school and I was studying functional nutrition to complete my healing process.
Mm-hmm.
I also did a lot of just like innately started doing a lot of interpersonal work that added towards my healing. And so I would love to tell people it's as simple as taking a couple nutraceuticals and changing the food on your plate. And while that is where the healing begins, it is not where it ends. So, we have to start to question things. I started to think about things in a much bigger frame, like who was I? How was I looking at and seeing my world and calling stress into my life so that I could really change my perspectives, my viewpoints, like my psychology towards things, and in order to call more stress out of my life. I used to be that really like type A, and I still am in a lot of ways, like perfectionist, very driven personality. I mean, I've always have expected a lot from myself professionally, athletically, personally in life. It's how I show up. I'm like addicted to growth and expansion. That's how you get this kind of mentality. I mean, it's like, that's like an athlete mentality to the core, and it's kind of what brought us together. And, but you have to also realize that when you're in those kinds of states, you're trying to reverse stress, and all forms of stress at that point are on the table to be considered so that you can get a better outcome. And so it just became really apparent to us that this whole conversation of sickness was a bigger conversation around energy in the human body. Energy being our function and our metabolism, essentially, and all things energy, not just what we eat. So mindset, environment, the psychology, stress management, detoxification, EMF, like all these things started coming to the surface, and we're like, this is a bioorganism when you're like this that's in absolute turmoil. It's in chaos. And so how are you going to calm that autoimmune system in that body down? And it really was that we needed to get into a bigger conversation around energy, but it also was there's a strategy to energy that is missing that we found coming from athletics that's really missing in the medical community and even the natural practitioner community quite often, because again, those philosophies were evident to us from our work in athletics, and how you are more strategic with energy to get the body to change from point A to point B quicker and more comprehensively for you. So E3 Energy Evolved was really just this aha moment of, okay, this is what we're talking about here is energy, but E3 Energy Evolved means that if we're going to heal and produce permanent and healing and thriving in the body functionally and metabolically, we need to think about energy in a broader perspective, but also approach it in a very strategic order and percentages to produce those outcomes in a bio-individualized way. And so for us, that was when you're in that kind of chaos, like we were sharing, what you put in the body first is going to be your most powerful move to reverse those things. And then next, what you starting to reassess what energy you take out of the body through different things was critical. And then finally, assessing your energy environment. And so the way we approach it through our methodology is, technically, if I had to go by numbers, it's like 70% your energy in, 20% your energy out, and 10% your energy environment. But for us, again, it starts with food. Nutrition is always going to be the most powerful thing that you can use to change the body. And most people don't even know that there's a bio-individualized level of nutrition they can take their process to. Most people are still doing general approaches to healing. And what I mean there is that they're doing a paleo or an autoimmune paleo diet.
The latest, greatest craze.
Right.
And yeah, and look at me, I'm a size 0, and I think good for you.
Yeah. And that's not, I don't want to, like, there's still benefits to that, right? But where people are getting stuck is they're like, wait, I'm doing all this with my food and my exercise, but why am I not getting better? Why am I still on thyroid medications? Why is my doctor still having me on steroids? Because like our prednisone, because I can't, my autoimmune system won't come down. Why? Because their mind's going, I'm doing more than I've ever done before, so why are my results not more? But the problem is You still got to go more. Like, just don't shoot the messenger. There's more. And you're just not getting that more in your natural practitioner community. You're not getting it because it's not in their scope of work. And or if it is, most of them don't even offer it because it's so much more down in the weeds in terms of really getting hyper specific about the nutrients that are just right for you and removing the nutrients that your body could be having a negative response to for now. And they just don't get into that level of
So it has to be
nutrition.
completely personalized to the individual, is what you're
In
saying.
our professional opinion,
Yeah.
most people, because what we're talking about here is a bio-individual illness. So people are getting over caught up in the label. They're like, well, I have a thyroid disease or I have an autoimmune disease, so my path to correct it must be just like my sisters or my mother's or my brother's. But we're here to tell you that's not the case because you have a lifespan. You came into this world one way, and how you got to this point to where you are today is completely unique to you. Will there be commonalities, and are there best practices in the paths that we use with our clients? Absolutely. But the programming is always individual to them in terms of their nutrients, so macro and micronutrients, what we're doing in the area of fitness, what we're doing in the area of psychology, what we're doing in the area of detoxification. All of it's specific to them. And the truth is you have a bio-individual condition. So don't get caught up in the whole medical teachings of like slapping the label on it for the diagnosis and we're all going to plug the same hole with the same medication. That is very broken thinking. Yes, it is important to know the label, but we can't get overly caught up in the label because ultimately what this is about is an autoimmune system that cannot, its total load of stress is too much and it needs to be reversed for a period of time and done so in a way that identifies what root causes are out of balance internally so that we can return that system to homeostasis, which is balance. So the symptoms just go away on their own because we're addressing what's going on internally from a root cause perspective versus over-focusing on the label or over-focusing on the dis-ease or over-focusing on the symptoms. They are intel and they're important, but they're not what's really going on here. There's root cause issues that are causing these things that have to be both clinically assessed and then programmed for it to reverse.
Okay. So Heather, I wanted to ask you about exercise. Okay, we know diet, is so important. But what about exercise? Because when you exercise, you build up an intensive, stress level also, right? And that really, because it's, you're doing that and everything else. And that's really affecting your stress levels by exercise. I'm thinking, boy, I know I'm doing, 4 hours every day and, I'm eating this or something like that. And I'm just still not feeling well. But again, that's that stress to your
It's stress, bad stress, it's all stress.
Stress is stress. Comes in all different forms, right? And some stress could be a good stress at times, but that same stress can also be a bad stress, right? So let's talk adrenal glands. Okay. So, adrenal glands are there to adapt to stress, right? You have a stressful incident, being chased by a tiger, your adrenal glands secrete certain hormones that enhance your vitals to get you away from that immediate threat, right? So you have increased breathing, respiration, increased blood flow to your extremities, increased awareness and alertness, so on and so forth, okay? Those vitals that are necessary for that emergent situation. But at the same time, the non-vitals that are necessary for life, right, but not that emergent situation, slow down or stop. So digestion, you're not going to absorb your food anymore, detoxification, you're not going to remove toxins from your body.
That tiger.
Right, right. It doesn't care, right, at that right now. It's not, the food you just ate doesn't have a necessity at this point, right, because your body's converting that stored glycogen into glucose anyway to be used for that immediate energy source, right?
You're going to have trouble getting pregnant because your body's not producing life. So we have a lot of...
So all these different non-vitals slow down or stop. So you become a toxic mess. You're not digesting. Your immune system starts to diminish and so on. Okay. So the problem is in our world that we're exposed to stress all the time, right? So we have mental, emotional stress, we have financial stress, relationship stress, we have economic stress, work, so on and so forth. Then we have environmental stress, right? So we have EMFs coming off all of our smartphones, our computers. God forbid you sleep with your cell phone in your room. That's another topic.
Yeah,
But-
we've been that.
So
Yeah.
all these different things are creating stress, right? And then you add exercise to the mix. Yeah, it's good if you're an otherwise healthy person, but if you're already overly stressed, you add exercise into the mix, that's additional stress, right? So that's putting you into that fight or flight mode. You're in that constant fight or flight, constant sympathetic dominance mode, and what's not happening is you're not getting into that rest and repair, right? So when you're constantly spinning, you're not restoring, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are less than 100% healthy, intense exercise may not be a good thing for you. You know, going out for a nice little walk and stuff like that to get some movement, some lung, increase your lung capacity and so on and so forth, great. But the HIIT training, the intense training, CrossFit, so on and so forth, for most people, it's not a great thing to do, because it's going to keep you in that state where you're not going to be able to rest, repair, restore, recover, and heal.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was interesting why you say that, Damian, because I just read an article, I think by Julian Michaels. Is she The Biggest Loser? She was
Julian Michaels, yeah.
Yeah, but doesn't she have, she's got some thyroid problems and everything else, and I think the article was that like
Jillian, call us.
Yeah, there you go. We've been doing that a lot on
We
the
can help
show.
you.
And then her counterpart just had a serious heart issue.
Heart issue.
Right?
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe it's those sugar-free desserts I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's not all about weight, and that was part of what was a huge transformation for us. Is like I said, our intention was just to heal me, but what we learned in that process is actually when you put your healing first, and you give your body and you get on your body's team, because P.S. your body really doesn't care about what the number on the scale is. Yes, it does, but not to the level that you believe, and it's not, you make it your most important thing. Its number one thing is keeping you alive, period, and it wants you to function in homeostasis. So your body is always trying to return to homeostasis, and ultimately what we're teaching our clients to do is get the heck out of its way and stop thinking up here about what you think your body should be doing, and get on the team of what your body's always been trying to do for you, and give you all the tools so you can really tap those powers and move it forward faster. But the weight loss comes. That's the cool part, is like we have clients we put on complete rest, what we call extreme rest, mental, physical, spiritual rest, and we flood the body with all the things it's been waiting for and crying out for. And when it can focus all its energy on taking those tools and doing the healing work, you watch out. I mean, people drop weight like nothing, and they're like, wait a minute, like, how is this possible? I'm not exercising and I'm losing like 40 pounds in 6 weeks doing nothing.
I'm kind of ripping on exercise a little bit, right? But we all know the benefits of exercise, okay? But they're only benefits if you're able to deal with the exercise, the stress of the exercise, So we're not saying don't exercise ever again.
No.
I mean, that's insane, right? Yeah. But there might be a period of time where you need to just cut back your exercise, stop exercising. If it's around your menses, you should shift how you exercise. And nobody's even considering these things. And then also if you're eating like crap, well then your exercise needs to be a little bit different too, right? I mean, exercising is not going to counter the crap that you're putting down your gullet, right? So I apologize, that's a little abrasive.
That's okay, we've heard worse.
I'm not Italian, I'm from New Jersey. So, but there are all these different things that affect the metabolism in a negative way. And exercise can affect it in a negative way if you're already in metabolic turmoil. And that's, again, kind of to Heather's point, that's why we can remove exercise, like forbid exercise for weeks or months and
this
see.
Sounds so extreme.
But you know what? So sometimes that's the most difficult, right?
That I've never heard before, and I think people need to hear that it could.
You'd be surprised. It's actually one of the toughest
It's the most difficult recommendation for people to take. By far.
I'll tell you why. Okay. Because it's not. There's a very typical personality type that comes to us if you're familiar with Ayurveda, it tends to be a Pitta personality. This is an energetic constitution in doshas that likes to force energy out of the body and pull it back in a cyclical manner. So they're driven. They're more, their constitution is fire, heat. They're more driven to intense adrenaline junkie type exercises. They may like weights. They may like flying out of a plane. They may like downhill skiing. That's that kind of person. I'm not saying that's always the type of person we see, but there's an absolute connection between your brain and your psychology to your physiology and how your body has taken through stress, through your mental perception and these things around energy that are super important. And I'll tell you, P.S., doctors and practitioners aren't even talking about this stuff when they're assessing their clients and programming for them. But you have to have, as a practitioner, that scope of work to be able to identify in that person, is this the type of person I'm dealing with energetically to program for them in a corrective manner. But for exercise, when that kind of person is actually drawn to exercise, they like movement. They don't necessarily do it only because their goal is weight loss. It's a way that they connect with their body. But when they get caught, like I was here, and they can no longer exercise, which is a way they like to connect with their body and show up in the world and express themselves, it's purgatory. Yeah. And having to sit still so that we can get the body to focus all its energy on the healing goal for a certain period of time so that we can get them back to being able to apply that type of stress onto the body to create adaptation is very tough for people because it's making them have to sit still. And healing happens in the stillness.
Nothingness, and listen to the body and feel the body.
Yeah. Healing produces your body. Healing is ultimately a co-creative process between you and your body, your brain and your gut. And you are going to tap more co-creative capability of that gut when you sit in the stillness than anything else. And it is super hard in the world that we're in today for people to sit in the stillness and not do and forget that we are human beings, not human doings. And sitting in that stillness is where we can really tap a lot of creative healing in the body.
You know, even when we're talking about listening to your body, you got to listen even a little bit deeper than how most people are listening. You know, so we get a lot of people that say, well, yeah, but when I exercise, it makes me feel a little bit better for a period of time, right? Which, yeah, of course it does, right? Because it's giving your adrenal glands a stimulation, right? Which they don't have much left to give, so you're draining every little last bit of stimulation out of them. You know, so yeah, you're gonna feel a little bit better for a period of time, but then you will crash again. You know, and so you know, again, I'm not saying it's not for forever, right? But it's gonna by removing that exercise for a period of time, it will allow you to further open that window. Right, we talked about earlier, opening the window of removing stress to allow your body to heal and restore and so on. You know, so it's going to further open that window so you can address all these other things.
And people don't understand that what we're talking about and what we program for is much more advanced. Like most people's concept of metabolism is what happens for 1 hour when they exercise. We're talking about resting metabolism. We're talking about what happens 24 hours a day and maximizing that. And the thing is, when you're applying exercise to the body as a form of stress, that draws out of that metabolic bank, and we want to conserve as much of that metabolic bank for the healing process to happen, for that work to happen in the body. And if you're doing exercise, often you're pulling away from your body's ability to do that work. And so it's really an exercise in re-educating the mind and how we think, how we see our relationship with our body, our self-care habits, our rituals, our patience, our mental talk. It's all of the above.
Kind of like if you have like $10 in your bank account and you draw $100
That's
out,
about right.
Right?
Not about 10.
You're not only are you going to be in a deficit, but you're going to be penalized on that $35 overdraft fee by your bank, right? I know that number because we've been there when we went through bankruptcy.
It's 40 now. It's 40.
It is a 40. Okay. So, but it's just going to add or detract really from your ability to heal.
And that's why when we created our E3 Energy Evolved model, all these pieces are in there. That's why psychology is in there. It's because it all matters. We're talking about a bioorganism that is multi-systemic, working together always at one point in time. It's a brain, a body, a spirit. It's all of it. And if you're going to have a more powerful experience of yourself as a being, you have to look at that holistic being and assess that holistic being and give a map to that holistic being to tap all those areas of power available to them. And if all they're getting is like, well, here's one lab and here's a general paleo program and a couple nutraceuticals and pat it on the head and send home and some Synthroid, well, I'm sorry, that's not enough. And there's so much more for you at your disposal to create change in this amazing thing that you're sitting in than just that. There's just so much more for you than just that. And that's the good news. That's the good news. Like there's so much more available to you. And so that's kind of where we came up with our methodology. And it was kind of like this conversation of the way we take someone through physical transformation starts with the energy in, your food, your things that you're doing for self-care, spiritually, all these things. Supplementation, hydration, sleep, and then we have to consider your energy out. So what are you doing for exercise? What are different energy things that drain your energy? What kind of health imbalances do you have? Because that matters too, other than just your thyroid nodule.
How is your body toxifying?
Right. And then your energy environment is ultimately what is around this bioorganism. Where do you live regionally? Because yes, that matters, your environment, where you are.
And who are you interacting with that's zapping your energy?
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, like you were saying about
what do we call
there,
them? Lantern stealers. There's lantern stealers everywhere.
Yes.
And, energetic vampires.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So,
Succubus.
Cautious who you're hanging out with.
Yeah. So there's a lot to it, but I think that the conversation is people can easily become overwhelmed, and that's why we have a really specific order and percentages and strategy, the way that we approach it, because bottom line, like if you're not willing to change your food, our philosophy is you can't really expect much change in your body. So like if you're not going to go there, then we're kind of the philosophy of don't get overexcited about, putting an essential oil diffuser in your office, because ultimately what you're putting in this body is 70% of its change. And so what we're saying is start where your power is. Go there first. Put your steps there first. And then we take, our people through that very intentional process. And we'll be sharing soon, actually, an online course that takes them through the basics of our E3 Energy Evolved model and how you would step through that process of your, self-assessing your energy in, your energy out, your energy environment to move through that so it doesn't feel overwhelming. You can do it in a really intentional order and really give yourself the grace and the space to learn these habits. I mean, these are things like we said we're sharing with you. I mean, combined, we've done this stuff for over 50 years, so 25 years between the two of us each. And it's like, for people to expect that they're going to learn that in a week, let's be honest. Like,
and it's baby, but
it's
if
baby
it's
stuff.
all thrown at you at once,
Right.
It's overwhelming.
Too much, right?
Too much.
So
and you're not gonna be able to integrate it, right? And so
and you know what? You're already overwhelmed, right?
I know.
But the amazing thing of this conversation is that ultimately this is possible. That this is what every human, I'm not special, every human body can do this. Yeah. Ultimately what it is you're just missing the way I think and the habits that we built and the education that we have and the mentoring that we have around the skills necessary to tap all the pieces of your body to get it to do that quickly. So if you can just for today at least believe that that's what you've been given as a potential and know that that's possible, then switch into and sit in the energy of that hope and know that these things are possible for you. It's just that they're not being presented to you usually through the resources that we're learning from. We're putting, our body in the hands of, because it's just not in their understanding or scope of work. So,
but that picture you have, the picture they say is 1,000 words. So there you go. That thought, there's hope, and look what's happening with yourself, right? So,
And it's
a
absolutely
journey, and a journey that you want to help others now, right? And, we look forward to it. So, let us know what's happening with your programs.
Yeah, we'd love to promote that for you if,
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Let us know. And so,
That would be great.
this is the ultimate health, live life well. So maybe, Heather, we'll start with you. What does that mean to you, and how do you incorporate it on a daily basis? And then we'll switch to Damian.
Ultimate health to me means being completely free of the system, meaning my body is free of illness, it's free of dis-ease, it's at metabolic and functional peace. And I know that I'm in complete control of my outcomes and my life and my destiny, because I'm creating my health every day through how I nourish this body and in my relationship with it, my understanding of it, and my gratitude for it. So it's ultimately, if I had to bring it to one word, it would be freedom.
Freedom. Okay.
I like it.
Damian?
Your turn.
Yeah, your turn. We ladies first, but now.
Heather put it much more eloquently than I would, but I honestly, I would have to just kind of ditto her. It's really, ultimate health is living outside of the system.
Yeah.
Right? Taking everything that you've been told for the last 100 years, 150 years, and say it's all BS. And true health is available to all of us, and it's what God intended for all of us, whatever God you believe, right? And
I have something I want to add to. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, and that the other thing is that it is possible for everybody, and one thing we don't believe in is we don't believe in disease. And disease is just it's there to,
it's a teacher.
Put a tag on a symptom so that the medical system can prescribe a drug that the pharmaceutical companies make trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars off of, right? While then creating another symptom so they can make more money, right? So there's no such thing as disease. It's just that your body is in disease, and we want to bring it back to homeostasis.
Yeah.
Wow. What
I would say
to have Damian and Heather doing that for you. I mean, it's a pleasure. We've learned a lot, and both of your energies is just you're in tune. You really want to help people, and it's so crystal clear. So we thank you very, very, very much.
It's nice that you're a team.
With us.
It's just so nice that you're a team. I just like that. Yeah.
Every way. Yeah.
Well, God is good, and He makes no mistakes. So I know He brought us together for a reason, and we didn't have time to talk about it extensively, but He was a huge part of my ability to heal. I'm very blessed that I have a husband that supported me in those decisions, and we work with women all over the world, and that is not the typical support system that they have. And so we'd love to just encourage the men listening too, that are interested in their wives receiving healing if they're experiencing that encourage them to know that they can do it together and be a team as well.
Yeah.
Beautiful
it's just
team.
easier
Thank
that
you.
way.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is.
Well, thank you both. You, again, a beautiful
A happy
team.
wife is a happy life.
There you go. And do you also have a free gift for our viewers?
We do.
And it's a guide. And I think we'll have a link under the video somewhere for that. So tell us a little bit about the guide.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. So essentially they could, I think it's at e3energyevolve.com/guide pretty much. And e3energyevolve.com.
We'll just have a little, it'll be a box.
That would be perfect. Yeah, it's our E3 Energy Evolve system guide, and what it does is it kind of gives them an introduction to what the E3 Energy Evolve system is. What are the different things under each level of that three-pronged approach to reassessing their energy that they need to be aware of and self-assess so they can start to look at how they can evolve their own approach to their energy to naturally reverse thyroid and autoimmune issues or stress-related energy, fatigue-related disorders, metabolic disorders. So they'll get a little bit of a taste of an introduction to that and some initial tips that they can start to work on in their own environment and life. And then also we have some of Damian's original recipes in there because, one of the hardest things, he is.
Oh,
very
we
good
do
one.
a Christmas cookbook for our subscribers. And so
awesome.
we get the recipes from our speakers. So get ready to contribute?
Yes.
You should see
Oh.
some of my creations this last
His
Christmas.
Christmas is
Yeah.
tricked out.
Gluten-free.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Dairy-free cannolis.
Yes, dairy-free, gluten-free,
Grain-free.
sugar-free cannolis that are
Whoa.
off the charts.
Healthy.
So good.
I get, so yeah, I mean, growing up Italian, right, with an Italian mom from New Jersey, everything was food-based, right? So she taught me kind of how to cook, and then I just continued, from there, and then I just think creatively as to how to make healthy things taste good, right? Because the reality is, eating healthy can be boring. And I think that's one of the
You
biggest
got that
deterrents for a
right.
lot
Hard
of
for
people,
people.
right?
Mhm.
But we don't eat boring, right? We don't eat grilled chicken and steamed broccoli, right? Because that's boring and it's not sustainable, right?
Yeah.
So we use a lot of herbs, a lot of spices, a lot of oils, a lot of, different veggies, different meats, and just pair them differently and experiment. And that's really what it's about.
The nice thing about the recipes too is we build in the principles not only of functional healing, but also how you optimize resting metabolism. So we kind of take the thought process out of that in terms of, because most people that
Balancing
come
the
to us,
macros as well.
yeah, how you balance the macros effectively so that you can trigger more thermogenic effective feeding or essentially like improve your metabolism, your rest metabolism. So,
Oh, that sounds great.
so those are included in the guide, and yeah, they could just go there
Wow.
and download it. So.
So,
Very cool.
Damian, a quick question. If you want to romance your wife, well, what's the favorite meal that you would, with the candles? Well, what would you make for her?
It's
Yeah.
got to be.
Inquiring minds want to know.
It would without a doubt be a homemade marinara
Okay, marinara. Okay.
over something, probably like a spaghetti squash or even some shredded green
Nice.
cabbage, with some type of meat.
Yeah, there's
without
always a
doubt,
protein.
and some additional veggies. I mean, it would really vary,
Okay.
but it's definitely sauce based.
And
Okay. All right.
would it be served with wine?
It may be served with an organic Zinfandel.
Organic red wine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The red Zin, not the white Zin.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And maybe a fresh sorbet after
Oh.
dinner.
Oh,
Yeah.
now you're talking our language. Oh, nice.
It makes a really good like strawberry mint sorbet. It's like super
Mint
good.
basil, yeah.
Mint
Oh,
basil.
nice.
Strawberry mint basil.
Oh, sure. Make us hungry. Oh,
It's
well,
dinner
that
for
would
us.
be a very nice meal to have. And so let the
Yeah.
romance continue, guys. Thank you very, very
Thank
much.
you for sharing your time with us. It was wonderful getting to know you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Likewise.
Yeah,
Thank you.
likewise.
Thank you.
And I like
Enjoy
this
it.
whole idea of rest. I'm going to make that my thing. Let's rest.
I can't
We all need more of it.
But we
Rest.
can't do
I'm
it until this
rest.
series is done.
Karen, I gotta rest. But that's a big takeaway. And that's the whole purpose of, doing programs like that's a big takeaway for people,
Yes.
We don't all have to be, like all the time. Sometimes you need that time for yourself. You're
Yeah.
That's
resting.
why it's called R&R.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Rest
Yeah.
and repair, rest and recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you again, Damian, Heather. And of course,
Thank you.
Thank you.
to everybody watching today, everybody that's enjoying this Ultimate Health Summit interview. Until next time, live life well.
Bye, everybody.